Anytime someone breaks up with us, the heartbreak is the loss of the life we thought we were going to have with someone. This is what it could have been. This is what it should have been. And my answer to that is, it would have been if it should have been and could have been. You're grieving over something that, by definition, it wasn't meant to happen because it didn't happen. So this idea that it was supposed to or it should have is myth. It's a fantasy. It's science fiction.
First things first is that going through a breakup sucks. And every single man out here, no matter what they say, understands how bad it is to go through a breakup and understands what heartbreak's like. It's difficult. It's not easy. I'd actually like to argue that men feel more heartbroken than women. I think that's facts. I think it's true. And I think it's because one of the possessive element that we have, the idea of her being with someone else hurts more than the idea of you being with someone else to her. And secondly, because you have a lot less options than she has instantly. So I think that breakups are worse for men than they are for women. And I understand how difficult and hard they can be.
There are things we can do to heal better in a breakup, but there are certain things that we can't shortcut. The pain of it, the grieving that can happen, is something that, if we're truly heartbroken, there are some people who will say, I've been heartbroken, but from the way they talk about it, they haven't been truly knocked on their ass, heartbroken, where you're a zombie going through your day. When you're in it, you know it. This is it. This is the thing that people talk about when they talk about heartbreak. There is no shortcut in the sense that we have to go through that pain. But I do think that the meaning that we give to the breakup is extremely important and can either prolong the pain way past its end date, or it's what should be its end date, and can make it much more traumatic than it needs to be.
What you have to do when it's not working with a girl is wish them luck, walk away, and don't look back. And you're still going to get those emotions, those things are still going to hit you, but walk away and don't look back. And there's two reasons for that. Number one, if there's any chance that it's going to work out, the best possible way for you to get it to work out is by walking away, by wishing them luck, walking away, and don't look back. That's the best way. If there is something there, then she will let you know eventually. And if there's nothing there, you're going to know that too, because you never hear from her again. That's fine. The protocol for getting her back is to walk away and don't look back. That's the protocol, is to move on. The protocol, if she doesn't want you back, is to walk away and don't look back. So look, and I know it's hard. You'll get some of those waves, but those waves will become less frequent and they'll become less powerful, and eventually you can move on.
When someone is exiting a relationship, when someone is saying they can't be with you, you have to be really honest with yourself and say, okay, they're telling me that they can't be with me because whatever reason, but they're telling me how much they love me and how they truly want to be with me, but I'm the love of their life. But you have to ask yourself, if I was them and I loved me the way they say they do, what would I be doing right now? What sacrifice would I be willing to make? What compromise would I be willing to make? And if they're not making that, then you have to say they either don't love me as much as they're saying they do, or we have completely different standards for how much we're willing to fight for each other. Either one is bad.
If you decide rejection is the scariest thing to you, you'll always avoid guys. If you decide that regret is the scariest thing to you, then you'll go out there and you'll talk to everybody and you'll have an amazing time doing it, because you'll know no rejection could be as painful as the regret you will feel later on.
In the Japanese art of kintsugi, artists repair broken pottery using dust from gold or other precious metals. It's meant not to hide the break and the repair, but to emphasize it as a beautiful part of the pottery's history. Similarly, when we experience a break in our heart, we have the choice about whether we'll forever view it as a wound or turn it into art.
But people use a number of strategies. They use distraction. They use states like, they sublimate to things like anger and avoidance of various kinds in order to not feel the traumatic feelings or not feel the breakup. People will, try and self-soothe with alcohol or try and self-soothe with multiple new partners or whatever it happens to be. Doesn't work. Grief is an autonomic state. We say it has valence, has negative valence, but it's high levels of autonomic arousal with a negative connotation, because you can be high levels of autonomic arousal with happiness, right? You can be very alert and aroused and happy, very alert and aroused and sad. It's very alert and aroused and sad, and yet we learn how to tamp that down. What is tamping down? It's reducing our heart rate. It's going to work each day, being a functional human being. You know, there's a lot of that, rather than allowing ourselves to, you know, sob uncontrollably into a pillow.
They got post-traumatic stress disorder because a relationship collapsed on them suddenly. You know, they get betrayed or someone leaves them suddenly, and then they don't know what to do, because, especially if they're conscientious, because then they just tear themselves into pieces trying to figure out what they did wrong to bring about that event. If you fall into a big pit and you get really hurt, the first thing you should figure out is how to not fall into big pits anymore. What you do with someone who's having problems like that, so maybe they're waking up at the middle of the night obsessing about what went wrong, is you walk them through it. You do a situational analysis first, because one of the oversimplifications that people make, if something bad happened to me, I must have done something to deserve it. Well, you did so many things with them that the idea that you did something wrong pretty much extends to every single thing you ever did with them. And how are you going to fix that?
Here are my two favorite strategies for getting over a breakup. Number one is that it takes you as long as you decide it takes to get over a breakup. A lot of people think that you have to feel heartbreak in order to honor the relationship that you were in. Like, if I immediately start dating right after I got out of this relationship, then it means that I didn't value the relationship. But why is that true? Like, why can't I have an amazing relationship, value it, and then start dating somebody the next day? It's only a belief. It's an assumption. The second thing is, I think that the easiest way to get over somebody is to find someone better. And so it's not saying that they suck. It's just saying that you guys might suck together and you can find someone who's better fit for you. And so I think you should absolutely just get right back on the horse, get back in the hunt, and then realize that there are a lot of fish in the sea.
Hangover recovery method in a breakup.
Okay.
And there's the athlete recovery method. When someone has a big night out and they do the hangover recovery the next day, I need just greasy foods to soak up the alcohol. I need to sit around on the couch all day and wallow. Unhealthy things we do to recover this damage we've just done to our body. When you look at the way an athlete recovers, an athlete gets an injury. Maybe my shoulder's out right now and it's a bad idea for me to do too much with the shoulder. I could do more damage. What I am going to do is train every other part of my body right now. And where possible, I'm going to do the physio on my shoulder to bring that back online. But what that means is when my shoulder comes back online, the rest of me is ready to go. I think of a breakup the same way, that your heart is the muscle that is damaged. Trauma has occurred there in a breakup. Everything that we do in the aftermath to a breakup has to be about liking ourselves more, because that breakup might have hurt our confidence.
Sometimes the breakup is the blessing, though. I tell this to women all the time, too. The breakup is the blessing. See, a lot of women break up and they're, oh, woe is me, I put 10 years in. Well, they was 10 bad years, though. There was 10 bad years. And the question you have to ask yourself is, do you want the next 10 years to be just like the old 10 years? If that's not the case, then the breakup is the blessing. And sometimes the breakup is so you can get a new start. Sometimes you just need to freshen up everything.